Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the last episode of this season, where we're going to be getting into some cloud cost governance today. So stick around to learn all about how to govern your accounts with cost in mind. But I panicked again, like at the start. Is that right? There's a panic on me. Everyone must think Steph does like all these episodes, and she should probably just get more confident with saying people's names, but apparently never will. Dyslexia plagues all of us. But we're going to be diving into that. Chat, please drop any comments, questions in the chat throughout. And if you're watching us on YouTube later, feel free to comment below. I keep track of all of those. But let's get into our fun first question, which is, like, have you had a frugal week or a splurgy week?
Quite splurgy week, yes. As a time week, in fact, intensive, frugal in the fact that I talk a lot of FinOps with my customer, but also traveling and intensive week, yes.
Interesting. So that like balance between the two. Yeah, you're joining us from not at home this time. But I love the people doing it. They're committed. They're doing it while they're on the road. I know what you mean. I feel like I've had quite a frugal week. Like nothing big has happened. But and also this is quite fun. So if you don't know, the Women's World Rugby Cup, I think I said that out of order, is happening at the moment. And so we went to watch the England game at the weekend, and because it's still like a developing, like a big crowd, we were at the official women's rugby pub and we got free merch. So I got to customize a jersey and I got a free like bum bag from doing this little game. And so I got loads of frugal stuff. Since I've finally had a frugal week, which is good. Finally, I feel like every time we let us know it's always splurgy. But we're getting into preparation time for Halloween. As the folks know who have watched this channel a lot, I love Halloween. I always do a Halloween special episode, so keep your eyes out for that. But it's starting to be that time where I'm starting to buy stuff for Halloween. So I start to spend so much money on plastic. But let's get into today's episode. So welcome everyone to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch. I'm a senior SA advocate here to help you on your FinOps journey. Like, do you want to do your 1-minute origin story for all the folks watching?
Yeah, so I'm Loic, Senior Technical Account Manager based in Geneva. I'm working now from more than 25 years in IT. I start before the cloud and I moved to the cloud and now I'm in the cloud. So as a technical account manager, our goal is to have a strategic engagement with the customer, not only on FinOps, I love it specifically, but also on the security, resiliency, and all the aspect that in order to make their cloud journey the best as possible.
Nice.
And about me, 2 sons,
Yeah.
6 and 9, and
yeah. I love that extra little detail, all the family people coming on. So sweet. So we're going to be talking about governance, about some different elements to it, about services you can use. Today, we're having a much more of like a discussion kind of based episodes, but don't forget to stick around to the end where Richard will be doing his summary to kind of give you that summarized explanation, which you can find at the end of all of our episodes. But let's kick off with, now, you're part of something that we called the Technical Field Community, the TFC. Quite a lot of people you've seen on this show are part of that. And so we get these special requests coming from customers to lend our kind of cost expertise to them. And one of the reasons we wanted to talk was kind of, you do a lot of these and you've noticed kind of common trends that come up with customers. So we were talking about this earlier, but do you want to give the folks kind of a general idea of how conversations start with customers that kind of lead us into some governance and general optimization?
Yeah, we have very often. So we have different requests, some from small companies, medium companies, large companies with a different setup in terms of FinOps. But usually when they are coming to us is already because it's a reactive mode. Oh, I have spent too much and I would like to reduce my consumption, my bill, how to help. And I'm thinking about taking saving plan or reserve instance. And our role is to educate them, telling them, look, before, if you are going to a saving plan or any commitment, if you have not optimized your workload upfront, you could have overcommitment. So we are starting by asking how are you organized in terms of FinOps? which tool are you using, how are you splitting the ownership in terms of cost optimization inside your organization. We are not talking directly about implementing FinOps governance, because through a spec rec, this is not, we have not enough long engagement. Even we can do it with different steps. But the goal is to educate the customer that cost optimization is not a one-time, I would say, reactive action. It's an iteration. And the goal is to avoid repeating the same task again and again, right sizing again and again. And the idea of this education session is to give them the baseline to grow in terms of their FinOps journey.
I love that. And so a lot of these fundamentals you are going to talk about today come from the well-architected pillars. And we've had a couple of, we've done, I think, the well-architected review on this channel before, and we've kind of used some of them. But do you want to explain kind of what that is, people who maybe don't know, before we kind of go into some of it?
Yeah, so in AWS, we have two frameworks. One is the well-architected framework. The goal of the well-architected framework is helping the customer to build secured, high-performing, efficient cloud architecture. And we have a second framework, which is the cloud adoption framework. It's different. We are, in fact, taking a layer above, and we are addressing the entire cloud adoption journey of the customer. The goal is to help them to set up a governance, including business, people, process, and also technology. So the idea is we are a bit cloud agnostic in the cloud adoption framework, and we are giving only best anti-pattern and benefits of following the, I would say, the guidance, and also the way to structure long-term, think big. We love to think big in terms of here, in terms of cost optimization. Actually, we are, and this will come soon into the cloud adoption framework. We will include also this cloud financial management part.
Brilliant. And the anti-pattern concept, I have heard of this recently, but I'd never heard of it before. So just in case anybody doesn't know, what do you mean by anti-pattern? I feel like it's obvious now, said it.
Yeah, the anti-pattern is what you should not do. For instance, I mentioned one before, going to a commitment without optimization upfront. So for instance, if you have a lot of over-provision instance and you are committing to a saving plan at 95-100% of coverage, that I not recommend, and then you are doing your right-sizing opportunity or deleting the waste, meaning stopping the idling machine or idling resource, you have the risk to have an overcommitment. So paying your commitment without having the workload behind.
Oh, I see. Okay, so not to do that makes sense. We have a couple of questions in the chat. Oh, not questions, just points. Hi from Ottawa, from Canada. Cloud cost monitoring is very valuable, literally, a topic that so many teams ignore. It's true. We'll go into kind of whose responsibility that is probably a little bit later. And Rachel said, this is my first time on this channel. Welcome, which is a good... Welcome. Yeah, good question. I'd love to know, we have our kind of polls. Let us know, guys. Oh no, why am I midway? Okay. That's never done that before. It's like, oh, okay, we'll log in apparently. We'll come back to my poll in a second, but let's kind of keep going. So you kind of mentioned things like savings plans, and I often think that that's a simple thing that we see people do first of all. But what do you think organizations should be accessing or doing before they start to dive into this governance? Is there anything that should be, are there any kind of prerequisites?
Yeah, the foundation, I would say the foundation of the governance is first, there is 3 scope, which is business, I would say people. That means finding the right people to define what we call FinOps Center of Excellence, or just FinOps Committee or FinOps team, depending the size of the company. And when we are talking about people, we are not talking only about engineering. We are talking about the cloud is good for that. We are on premise. The people were talking each other every 3 years. It was a capex approach. We were buying the racking everything and talking each other 3 years after. In the cloud, we are reconciliating all the team, and the team will have to speak each other very often. So we are talking about engineering, business, project manager, finance, and also if you can include executive on top of it to push for your initiative, that is the best. Then after the people scope, you have the, I would say, the process scope. The process will be, okay, you are right sizing once. How to avoid having to right size twice? How to also you are moving all your database open source to Graviton, because this is a way to have better cost and performance. How to avoid having to do it again in 1 year, because a business unit will start again the database without selecting a Graviton instance. So this is a goal to implement guardrails to avoid having repetitive tasks. And then the last scope will be technology. And as Werner said 2 years ago in the Frugal Architect, I would say if you are not monitoring, you cannot control the cost. And the monitoring is, I would say, these 4 steps in the FinOps governance, which is see, save, plan, and run. I will come back to this later. But the first one is C. So C meaning you need to have the good tools to get the observability of your cost. And not only for the FinOps team, the goal will be to empower everyone in the company with the right data and the right dashboard in order to have them monitoring the cost and splitting the ownership across all the organization.
Yeah, there's so many people involved. When it comes to governance, we've had a question, which is, who is responsible for the cloud governance part? So I know we'll go into a little bit more about what that is, but who do you see? Is it more the FinOps team? Is it more the security team? Is it a combination? Where do you see it often sitting in organizations?
I think it's difficult to talk about a full cloud governance because I think if we are taking the security governance, we will not have the same stakeholders than in FinOps governance. I would say I cannot imagine involving finance into the security governance. It will be more cybersecurity team, executive. So I love to talk more about security governance split and FinOps governance on another way. I think it's 2 different things. Of course, on top of it, we can have executive talking about the CTO, CEO organizing the cloud governance in a general way. But where we are talking more about operational around FinOps, we are more talking about the FinOps governance. And here, one of the anti-pattern and the 2 pizza team become an anti-pattern here. In Amazon, it's very good, but in FinOps is not a good practice. We need to have involve the more people that we can. So if we can have I would say more you will have people involved in the cost awareness culture across your organization, more your initiative to set up the governance will succeed.
Okay, yeah, I totally understand. And it makes sense because you can have experts making decisions that are going to affect on their specific area. Like you said, like I always joke, no one ever wants me to be doing security because it's not my area. I don't want to set those rules up. But I do want to be involved in the FinOps side of like, what is a good control, whether that's kind of the simple one to think about is things like, hey, maybe using Graviton as your default instance for managed services, simple things like that, I would consider like a governance piece, but it's not about security. Great questions. Keep them coming in the chat. Oh, hello, Victor's here. Hello. So this is a good time, actually. Let's do a quick poll for, I brought the poll up now. So 1 for yes. So have you watched the show before? 1 for loyal fan, 2 for once, twice, 3 from new. I know we have a couple of new people, but I'm sure we have a couple of regulars in the chat. So please bring those up and let's bring up the results. Okay, quite a few loyal fans and some new people. Brilliant. Okay, now, and I know everyone knows what the comments are, so any comments or questions throughout, please feel free. I like the way it looks. It's like we've got a lot of old fans, but also, some new folks. Oh, the new folks are coming in. Oh, I love that. So yeah, if you are new to this channel, keep all your comments, questions coming. And yes, you can watch this on demand and we'll share some stuff about that later. getting back into the governance side, why don't we, I mean, we keep trying, you've talked a little bit about like find different governance, but when we're talking about FinOps, how do you define governance when it comes to our world of FinOps?
So I would say the first step is to create a sustainable cost management framework. What we mean by that is if you are too restrictive or you are trying to go too fast, you will not have the adoptions of the team. So you need to find a trade-off, a balance between reducing the cost fast, but also thinking big and long-time perspective. So first, it's important to define the FinOps team. So in a small organization, it will be probably one of the IT engineer. Then you bring one person from the FinOps, and then you can define a FinOps champion into the different business units. And as soon you have your committee defined, you will need to define regular cadence with this committee to define, I would say, the policy that you would like to set up, the KPIs that you would like to monitor, because you will need to have some goals, some targets, and this is the KPIs that you will define. And also, you will need to define the tools that you want to use, meaning how you will observe the cost. As soon you have defined the objective, the team, the tool that you will use, and you will be able to say, okay, how we will implement the process. And this is how you begin. And then education of the team, because the FinOps committee will not succeed if you do not have this cost culture awareness that is spread across the organization. So you need to educate the people to be autonomous on the tools. So creating the dashboard, we have a famous cloud intelligence dashboard, giving them the remediation runbook with CFM tips, for instance. You can also explain how Compute Optimizer is working, initiate and give them access to Cost Optimization Hub. The goal is to say, okay, now you are is not as we were on premises. Like one team was in charge of the capex, capital expenditure, and then we were having the OPEX was very small. In the pay-as-you-go model as a cloud, everything is becoming OPEX. So everything need to have a recurrent session to monitor the cost and control the cost.
A lot going on, but I like what you said about the education. I was just digging back in my memory of like the expression I used to use when I first started doing FinOps, and it was in either of situations. So it was educate and allow, or it was restrict and review. So if you educate everybody, if you spend those time educating and you allow them to have more freedom, you're kind of trusting your teams to make good decisions, but you have to invest a ton in education. Or there is like another viewpoint, which is restrict and review. So if you want to go more heavy-handed and like deny not everything, but like a lot of stuff, if you do that, then you have to have a good review process that's speedy and unblocking. So yeah, make the default for every instance Graviton, for example, that is the default. But if there are edge cases or specifics where you have to use Intel, you can't block people doing that. So what is the way they do that? Is there a ticketing system that gets your approval? Is there a prereq they have to do? And so there's a lot of important balancing with those kind of two different things. We've had a question as well, which is, when you mentioned education, what tools are there for education? Apart from our lovely show here, do you have any other places that you recommend people trying to checking out for education?
Yeah, I mean, the well-architected framework for cost optimization is, of course, one aspect, one tool that can be used. Also, if you are customer of AWS, you can request to have a spec rec and a call with a FinOps specialist. There is also Skill Builder. On Skill Builder, you have Natalia has delivered very good, I would say, training that is free. And to begin in the cloud financial management, this is absolutely a great education and training session. So Skill Builder, great also source of trainings. And I mentioned it, CFM tips, where you can find for every services the good practice also.
Mm-hmm.
And one tip that I can give also, if you want to motivate the team, because of course, if you are not trying to give the goals, if you ask a dev if you want to spend time between developing new feature or spending time optimizing his machine, I think the trade-off will be quite fast. So you need to implement a kind of gamification of the FinOps governance and also incentive. So you can challenge your team between, you have two business units. Okay, the one that will be able to migrate to Graviton the faster, or I don't know, save the most. At the end of the month, we'll have a cinema ticket, or I don't know. But it's something that I would say we discuss a lot with some FinOps practice in small, medium, large company, and this is quite working well. I mean, there is also a game days. If you want to, game days are very great. We have the Frugal Architect game day, or Frugality Fest game day. And this is absolutely great, because through the game day, you will have a team building, and they will learn by being hands-on. So they will practice and learn in the same time.
Yeah, a couple of things to note on the Frugal game day is, if you're going to reInvent, we are doing the Frugal Architect event, doing a workshop in that. So when all of the times come out, we'll be doing like more formal announcements, and make sure you subscribe to wherever you're watching, or you follow me on places like LinkedIn, and that is the place to find that. I'll just drop my LinkedIn username in the chat so people can grab that as we go. Yeah, so look, if you look for AWS Steph, you'll find me. And I've also put one of the skill builder courses, the one that I made. Not just Natalia, there was a group of us. Too.
Sorry, Steph.
I'm so claiming. No, I'm joking. Why would you know? But yeah, a bunch of us, Adam, Judith, were also on those who have all been guests. Everyone who's done them has been on a regular on this show, so it's all very, very great. Okay, where was I going? I thought I just saw a question, but I don't know if I lost it. So yeah, any questions? Please pop them into the chat. I thought I did some other question. I saw Rachel's question on the chat, but Rachel, I can't see your question in here, so please feel free to raise it again. Okay, let's keep kind of going through these elements of governance, but good question about education. So we talked a little bit about the different teams that need to be involved, but when it comes to organizational structure, we talk about some different things when it comes to pricing and how to structure your FinOps team specifically. So we have I think centralized, decentralized, and federated. I've heard you speak about. Do you want to kind of explain what those are and when you should use them and stuff like that?
Yeah. So first, we will start by the centralized. It's one dedicated FinOps team that will handle all the optimization. Meaning, of course, they will educate everyone. They will split the ownership, but the goal is one team, centralized. This is the best for the small company starting their cloud FinOps journey, because they will have more agility, and they have a deep expertise, so they can concentrate the expertise to push this expertise to the team, to the field, and in their organization. At some point, the centralized can create bottleneck. So because when as soon the company will grow with different business unit, having a centralized team can, I would say, sometimes be a bottleneck. This is why when the company is growing, they're trying to decentralize this individual team to handle their own cost optimization per business unit. And this is what Savannah was explaining when in the 4 months ago in the episode about the cloud maturity assessment, that sometimes each business unit have their own FinOps practice and their own maturity. This is great for medium-sized company where team will need rapid decision and autonomy compared to having a centralized team that could be a bottleneck when the size of the company grow. I would say the drawback is it could lead to inconsistent maturity, inconsistent practice across the different BUs. So yeah, I would say it's good. And then we have the federated. So the federated is a bit, and this is what we have generally in the large Excel organization. It's a central governance with a distributed execution, meaning you have like a FinOps Center of Excellence, which will define the policy, the guardrails, the best practice, what should be enforced across all the BUs. And then they are pushing this, and the implementation is done at the business unit level, because they are naming champions so you have one person or multiple people, depending on the size of the business unit, that have the ownership of the FinOps, and the FinOps Center of Excellence will, I would say, use them, empower them to be in charge of the implementation of the best practice inside their business unit.
Wow, yeah. So a few different options there. I think one of the key things, right, is it really depends on whoever you are watching. It depends on your business, like what's going to work and the scale, and to kind of balance those decisions.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I would say if you have a new business, cloud native, I would say it will be already great, because I think there is also this shift of mental model between when you are coming from, I would say, on-premise, you have a large organization, and you are coming from on-premise, you are going lift and shift or whatever, you are moving to the cloud, and sometimes you have this culture, okay, I will over-provision, this is not an issue until I'm going to the prod or whatever. If you are new business, cloud native, just start simple, and one person from finance, one person from engineering, executive sponsor, and you are good. 3 people, and you are good to define the roadmap for your FinOps, the accounting, and also think about educating your team quickly to split the ownership.
Yeah, once you start with that, what I would really encourage, because I know as someone who had this, is like starting out was just me, and the way that you get more people involved is, I think we see a lot of people trying to like kind of come in really hard and like, I know best and do this kind of thing. And we got a question in a second, we'll come to with that. But what we want to make sure is that is, I say, look out for people who are excited. So as you guys know, I produce like a lot of content about CFM, but like lots of different topics. And so in my teams, I'm always looking out people who are like, oh, can I do one? Or how do I do this? And my advice, the same thing with FinOps, is like, if someone shows an interest, bring them on board, show them how it works. They might have ideas, they might have feedback, but you have to be really open to those things to make the environment a lot more conducive to collaboration and seeing different points of view, especially if you're a FinOps person and you don't have a developer background. Like, get a dev that seems interested, even if it's one of your friends, like get their feedback so that you can see what their life is like and what their work is like and how you can kind of integrate. But we have a question. Let me bring this up. So Rachel, we're not sure why we couldn't see in StreamYard, but we put it up. So do you find that customers or in general sometimes think that they know more than they do? How do you feel like you make sure you educate everyone? So like you do quite a lot of spec recs. Do you ever feel like you have these kind of situations?
No, generally the people are very humble, and usually sometimes they say, yes, I have already optimized, and I say, let's give it a try, because for instance the compute optimizer by default, that's something you need to you can define some preference, so the how much you want to have a look back period. So I'm trying to go step by step and I would say to verify the different things together. So it's like a collaboration more. When I'm seeing people that are very competent, it's more, let's try to have a collaboration to review what you could have missed, and maybe we will find 4 eyes will be better than 2, and we will find something that you could have missed. And then we are also, I'm sometimes learning from the customer also, because they each, I would say, business, when we are talking about defining the KPIs and the cost per client, the cost per customer, the cost per transaction, it's also interesting depending the business, because I could have good experience on, I don't know, calculating the KPI for a website, how much it would cost for a customer or transaction. But for the specific business, I'm learning a lot, because the FinOps will also need to align we also always mentioning this. You need to align your business targets with your cost optimization. So the goal is to ensure that the income is aligned with the outcome.
Yeah. And I think it's a really interesting kind of question to think about. No one's asked that question before. But I love there's two elements to it, I would say. With it depends what knowing more about something. So the customer knows more about what they're doing than I do, because I'm not there. And however, I probably know more across the board about how to have an optimized business and how to run a FinOps team. And so the good thing is that I'm rarely ever brought in to see a customer who doesn't want to see me. So they're always like, help. They normally want to talk to me. I have had customers that are a little bit more combative, and they're kind of like, this is the way we work, this is the problem. But the thing is, and a definitely like a skill and a challenge, is having those conversations to try and tease out what is the problem. So is the problem, because I've had conversations where customers are like, it's more important for me to spend money on building and building and building than it is to optimize. And I'm like, fine. That's great. That's absolutely fine. You must have tons of money. That's absolutely fine. And they're really surprised when I come back to them. I'm like, that's great. And I'm like, not going to push it. I'm like, okay, so what do you want to talk about? Do you want to allocate that cost better? Do you want to set up more reporting? Do you want to have more visibility? Do you want to try and get alerts for any, like, it depends what they want to do. And often they'll be like, oh, do you know what? Actually, our problem is allocation, which it nearly always is. Or it's like, what can we do that's easy? And I'm like, savings plan, done. Like, let's do some simple stuff. And so I think when you have those conversations, it's figuring out what the problem is. And that's actually, I'll do a little segue, as you're going to mention later, but that's a really good segue. Working backwards from the problem is something that we strive to do in one of the other teams in the customer acceleration team that I work in. And what we're going to do is we're having a new show. So if you guys are on this channel, make sure you subscribe, because then you'll come up. But in Q4, we're having a show called How to Build Like AWS. And the goal is to educate customers, everyone watching, on how to build things, but it comes from building from a problem. So we always build backwards from a problem. So make sure that you subscribe. We've also dropped the link in the chat to see that. So I'll bring that up, Richard, so you can kind of like this blog and kind of keep an eye on it. And that's where we put all the information about the shows that we are doing. Steph is the best host on here. Thank you so much, whoever that is. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff coming out of that. But let's go to a quick poll. So I'd love to know, same as before, guys, what is your governance level kind of crawl, walk, or run to use the FinOps things? Where would you say you guys are? Because I think a lot of people sometimes sit in the between, and it's very exciting when we set people who
maybe we can remind what is crawl, walk, run.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, sure.
I would say crawl is when you are starting to define your cost visibility and you are starting to have a reporting maturity. Walk, this is when you start to, I would say, you have a good tagging strategy. You have already starting to implement process, and you have a clear forecasting. And then the last run is when you are, I would say, you have secure your executive sponsorship, you have already partnership with the finance, and you have your process. So you have already in a good maturity into the FinOps practice.
Yeah, so we've got a bit of a mixed bag. Some people it's great to see more people saying crawl, to see run and walk, which is great. Love that for people. So you mentioned at the start, we were talking about the CFM pillars from AWS, the see, save, plan, and run, which we use kind of a lot of. Do you want to quickly go through what those things are and maybe what they mean in terms of services and phases and stuff like that for everyone?
Yeah, I mean, so the first step is see, and this is when we have a new customer, the new company, as you mentioned. This is what we will I would say start to educate them on the tool that they can use. So the first tool that we will I would say guide on will be my favorite one is Compute Optimizer, is Cloud Intelligence Dashboard with Kudos, because the dashboard will help the customer first and foremost to find the right information, the right KPI quickly. Cost Optimization Hub also, that is, I would say, an aggregation of all the information from the different services in AWS to optimize your cost. And what is great is you can, even you have already committed, you can have the after discount savings. So you know exactly how much you can save despite you have already this commitment. Because one important step into the FinOps is to not only consider the cloud cost, but also the cost of your resources. So if you will not, I would say, use 2 days of a DevOps to implement something to save $200. So you need to take this in consideration. So as soon you have, I would say, the cost visibility, you have also, you need to think about the showback and I would say if you need to do cost allocation or not. So if you need just to show back, meaning that you need to show the cost to your, I would say, reporting to your executive and also to the different team. Because as mentioned, if you want to give the ownership, you need also to give to your team, to all the builder of your company, the way to access this information. So that is, then you need to decide if you want to charge back between the teams, that you need to set up your tagging. So we are still on the C, okay? And now the C phase is generally between 1 and 6 months for implementation, because it could take time to implement the tool, to understand the tool, to educate about the tool. Then you have the, I would say, the safe phase. So this is when you will do the cost optimization. You know the tool, you know how to use the tool. So you will right size. You will detect everything which is idling. Okay, have a look on your EBS. That's something at all the customer, because you are creating EC2, you are deleting your EC2, and there are always EBS that are idling. It's always $5-6, but at the end it's a lot. So detecting this kind of thing. So, and then going forward, optimizing your database, moving it to Graviton, thinking about Aurora. So this is where you will implement the best practices and optimize each of your workload. If you will inspect S3 also. 95% in Kudos, you can know exactly which bucket is in standard, I would say Glacier or whatever, and you will see that 95% of your bucket are on standard. And you know that if you have read the best practice, going to intelligence sharing will not change anything in terms of performance, but can save you a lot. So you will check this. So this is the safe part, okay? If we can summarize, is choosing the right price model for your workload and your pattern. And then this phase of, I would say, saving is generally 3 to 9 months. Then you have the plan phase. The plan phase is one of the most difficult one for the company. This is the forecasting. If you are trying to go to any project manager, any people in the organization, and you ask them, okay, can you tell me what will be the spend, or how much how much resource do you have to implement cost optimization? This is super hard for the company. Even they are trying always to make budget, this is hard to project the cost in the cloud. So we are helping the customer to do this forecasting with some tools, with some, I would say, process. And I would say this is where you can define also the business value, your KPI, according to your business. So, okay, you are a software provider, you are selling an application, you are spending time to develop this application. This is important to define what is the cost of the application per customer. How much your front end, back end, and all the workload that need to run your application cost. And if you divide by the number of customer, are you up considering the income that you have per customer? Are you above or below? And then this is also when you will in fact use this power of having a FinOps team. Because you will be able also to define the policy and target that you would like to get. So for instance, okay, we have detected potential 30% of right sizing. So we know that we could have, I don't know, 2 resources over the next 6 months to implement this right sizing. So the target will be to save 30% within the next 6 months. And you will define also the cost anomaly detection. You will define the budget, so budget alert, because you have start to forecast, so you know exactly in the day-to-day how much you should not spend over. So the cost anomaly and the budget alert will help you to follow your budget. And yesterday, nice lunch, you can now define before it was monthly, quarterly. Now you can define your own current period in budget. So that's very great. So if you have a sprint of 1 month, you can define a budget for 1 month. And that's super good.
Cool. Yeah, I love it.
And the latest one is the run. So the plan phase is usually between 6 and 15 months. And the run phase, we cannot, I would say it's always, as soon you have reached a run phase, it will be an ongoing, a complete iteration. It's permanent. So it's, of course, always having secure your executive sponsorship that will remind your team that optimizing is not an option, is, I would say, a goal. Use him also to organize some events, incentive, and celebrating. Also, this is super important when you are, if you are able to, you have a business unit achieving a transition to Graviton or achieving 10%, 20% of saving by reducing the waste, implementing scheduler, right-sizing their workload. Celebrate this. It's important to celebrate because if the people are seeing that they are rewarded because they are achieving cost optimization, they will, I would say, it will create a trend in the company that people will try to replicate. Okay, this is good to save, I will save. And also another option to motivate the people. We always say that cost optimization is a proxy for sustainability. So if you also mention to the team that when they are optimizing their workload, they are also saving the planet, it is great because they are reducing by reducing the waste or right sizing, they are also reducing the carbon footprint. So it's another objective that could be great. And yeah.
Yeah, on the last point of like the green element of it, any version of that, green is obviously a great one, but any version of tangible things that you are accumulating when it comes to optimization. I once jokingly did it like copies of a limited edition book or a new hire or a certain beverage was what it would equate to if we save certain amounts of money to make it more tangible. Because often these, unless you're a new kind of developer doing something at home or a side project or a student, like you're not facing that bill. And so it's this magic money that's paid off over somewhere else. And so if you have something that's more tangible and it does actually kind of reinvest, there's two kind of bold of it. A good example is we see customers optimize their spend and then they reinvest it into new projects. So when before they could have this one project, they now can afford to have two. And so there's more jobs or more work and more interesting work. And then the other version of that is, hey, we saved all this money. Why don't we invest that in new training for you guys or tickets to reInvent or something else? So making sure, #come to reInvent and CS Talk. And so there's all those kind of elements. And Victor said motivation is important. I agree. It's
yes.
Because I think the thing with cost is like the motivation for security is don't let anyone hack your server. Like that's the thing we're focusing on, right? But don't let anyone spend too much money. It's for me that would be very personal. Like I wouldn't want to spend, like I don't want anyone to break into my house. I also don't want to spend too much money on my bills. But because people don't see necessarily
because this is your money. Because this is your money.
Exactly.
And sometimes, you know, it's cumbersome because I have some customers saying, yeah, I don't want to save because otherwise next year I will not have the same budget. See, this is where you exactly the example that you say, you need to be strategic and explain. You can have the same budget. It's just a question of forecasting. So if you save on this area, you can maybe invest in more automation like this, you can release some repetitive task, and then you will be able to focus on more strategic and interesting things, as you mentioned. Exactly. So yeah, this is the kind of discussion that we can have with the customer. I don't want to save because I would like to keep the same budget.
Yeah, exactly. And subtle plug is saying come to reInvent, which is true. And or Rachel's proposed this option: take Steph and her wonderful team to the front row of rugby. I would love that. That's what you should spend that money on. And also, someone's quite excited for the new show. Thank you so much. And we'll make sure we summarize of where to get all that kind of information. But I know we're coming up on time, so I wanted to do a quick poll, which is, what is your favorite CFM pillar? So very quick one, like folks, I want to know, what is the number one for you? See, save, run, or plan? Like, what's yours? What's your, like, the best, whenever you get a spec rec, you're like, oh, I hope it's what do you think?
I would say my favorite is to develop the cost awareness culture. So I would say both. I cannot choose because they are you cannot separate. It's all together that you can accomplish something. But yeah, my favorite things is to educate the people, explaining how the tool are working, how they can get great achievements, and also develop this motivation for saving, this challenge across the organization. And then you have a new session and the customer is saying, oh, we have saved 20%, or we have accomplished this and this. And you were right, moving to Graviton is super cool and super easy. Yeah, this is also when we are celebrating. So yeah, the run also is good when we are celebrating.
Yeah. So the next thing I question is, what is your least favorite CFM pillar, folks? So there's, like, personally, I think I rarely dive into as much the plan ones, but I love, like, a run. So yeah, what do people? I think people consider the plan.
Plan is it's quite hard to forecast, especially in the cloud.
It's very hard to forecast in the cloud.
Yeah, especially in the cloud where everything is so changing fast.
Yeah. Right. I know we're coming up. We've only got a couple more minutes, so I want to dive into two things probably really quickly. One thing is, when we talk about governance, like, do you want to just throw out some services, some AWS services that you recommend people take advantage of when kind of setting up governance?
Yeah. So when we are talking about governance, we are talking about also automation. I would say it's an important step into the governance. So the process is you will need to in fact implement the process to avoid, as I said before, the repetitive errors. So implement SCPs, for instance, or implement using AWS config to have, I would say, detective control. So we are talking about preventive control, detective control, and corrective control. So this is important to implement those. So SCP to avoid, for instance, I don't want anybody to start a GP2 for EBS on GP2. I don't want anybody to start, I would say, RDS Postgres with a non-Graviton. And so this is on the SCP. You can monitor your governance with AWS config, and also implements of corrective control with cost anomaly detection, budget. This is something that we already mentioned. Now, in terms of automation, there is also something that the customer are always asking, how I could automate the remediation. Why this? Because when you are showing a list of 1,000 EBS that are idling, the customer will ask, oh, I cannot do it manually, how I can do it. So, and also when they are seeing all the compute optimizer. So in compute optimizer, for instance, there is a project on GitHub with step function where you could automate directly. Of course, I recommend to test it first in dev and test before going to prod. But there is a way with step function to automatically implement the change on coming from the recommendation of compute optimizer. So you can start low, so just switching, for instance, GP2 to GP3, which has no interruption of service and will be done in the background, and step by step going up and, I don't know, trying a right-sizing instance automatically. I have customers that have implemented, they are automatically right-sized. They have unpredictable pattern. So as soon I would say every 14 days or every 32 days, that each time there is a new recommendation, they will right size automatically, because this is in fact some workload that for which they cannot use autoscaler. This is legacy workload from lift and shift and so on. So or you can automate. And something also that mentioned by Werner in the Frugal Architect is implementing the FinOps as soon as possible in your project. So as a non-functional requirements from the design of your application. And we have an incredible great tool for that, which is the AIC analyzer. So instead of being reactive, so the mental model of having FinOps governance is to switch from a reactive point of view to a proactive. So the idea of the AIC analyzer is to test your code, your infrastructure as code, over the best practice of the well-architected framework through Lens, and to say, okay, it will not be only for FinOps. It will cover the 6 pillars of sustainability, reliability, performance, and so on and so forth. And you will be able to evaluate before your infrastructure is going live if your code is compliant with your FinOps policy. If there is something that need to be changed like this. Before you are starting to have cost, you are already preventing the mistake to happen. So, and I think this is with the AI in the future, this is what will be the major asset, is preventing the workload over provision, or I would say not fitting for the pattern that you need to go live, and prevent having these checks from the design of the application and the implementation of the FinOps directly in the project. And this is something that more and more companies are achieving, to have the FinOps participating to I would say the project, and being inside the sprint and participate to the project.
Yeah. And when it comes to AI, I mean, we won't go deep into AI today, but check out all the other episodes we've done on AI. It's obviously a hot topic that everyone wants to talk about. But it's something I heard someone describe it that as like, rather than AI, they called it Jenny, like generative AI, Jenny. And it's like, Jenny's really hot right now. Like she's the in girl. So I know we spoke a little bit on this before, but any kind of advice with how you think that they're going to start using AI, like any words of wisdom, so people don't jump in and start just like AIing everything and trying to optimize all this kind of stuff?
First, I would say, if you have not seen the episode of last week regarding MCP, it's a must to watch. But yeah, I mean, there is more and more MCP, agentic AI, I would say, tools to make recommendation. I would say it's great, and but be careful. It's very important before using AI to reach a certain maturity. You need, because if your data are not good, for instance, you have duplicate tagging, so your dictionary of tag is not accurate. The KPI that you are monitoring are not the right one. The dashboard that you are not well set up. I would say if the element, because the GenAI will not, and the problem of GenAI very often is when they don't know, they don't say, I don't know, they will find something. So the idea is you need to go for GenAI when you have already a good maturity in FinOps, when you have already implement all the steps, tagging, control, process, educate the people, empower the people, give ownership to the people. At this moment, because you are already in the run, you can think about GenAI not replacing the people, but saving time. So instead of you visualizing ton of information to find the right sizing, or imagine the AI doing it for you. Instead of trying to convince your executive to get your resource to implement the right sizing, imagine the AI can do it for you. Imagine you detect tagging, missing tagging, AI can. So start by tagging. Tagging is a good example. Last week, I tried this MCP, recent MCP that we released. and I ask the MCP, okay, I have not tagged all the resources that I create on my Isengard. This is very bad. Please implement this the tagging on every aspect, on every workload, every step. So it did it very well. So start by a very simple thing. Start to create the trust between you and your agentic AI agents, and then be sure that everything you can ask to the AI, you are able to verify it. So you have it's like coding with AI. If you don't know, if the AI, you have not the ability to read the code produced by the AI and to estimate if this is a good code or bad code, I would say it's the same in FinOps. You need to have the right maturity first to estimate if what the GenAI is bringing to your FinOps governance is good or not. As soon as you have the trust, you have you will be able to save 40%, 50% of your time to focus on more, I would say, strategic initiative. So go step by step, and yeah, this is my advice.
Great advice. Kind of increment those and play, but it will, I think eventually we'll get to a state where it is going to be very automated, very helpful, but just with always words of warning, kind of check what it's doing. Queue and all those things can be a bit of a black box sometimes. So just be mindful of those things. Right, that is it. Let's do our Secret Richard summary. So Richard secretly sits there. He answers, is in the chat a lot, and he listens to our conversation and writes a summary. You can pop to the end of every episode to see this. And no, he is not AI, even though I had to ask that. Let's see. So FinOps governance embeds cost awareness into daily operations. Yes. Switch from reactive to proactive enforcement. Break it down into see, save, or plan and run, and celebrate success. Come on.
Yeah.
So a last couple of bits of housekeeping. People asking where you can watch these. Check out the Keys channel. Just like and subscribe, and also like and subscribe wherever you're watching, and just Google Keys to AWS optimization, and you'll be able to see our back catalog. I'm going to share a couple of resources before we finish. So check out the builders article, or just again search for Keys. This will have all of our information, and it will have all of our episodes information. I'll make sure it's up to date when we come up with our new dates. We're coming back in October, but we're just confirming the start date. What you can do is, if you have your QR code of your phone handy, scan this QR code, follow me on Builder Center, and that is where all of the information will be. Like I said, we'll also be releasing all the information on the new show for how to build like AWS. This is going to be on Thursdays. Thursdays. This is Thursday. On Mondays at I think it's 6:30 Pacific time, so whatever relevant time zone that is. And we're focusing on how to build technically like AWS customers. As always, make sure you join the Customer Acceleration Team LinkedIn group. There's so many things to join, and keep aware. And the very last one is, and I'll drop this in the chat right now, is I'm doing a 2-hour live stream on cost essentials. So if you want to have a big bolster, we're diving into AI storage and EC2 with a lot of friendly faces, go into that link and make sure you sign up for that LinkedIn event to stay up to date. Brilliant. That is it from us. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me. You're clearly a fan of the show. You feel like you remember more episodes than I do. So thank you so much for being such a loyal watcher. And we will, as a reminder, we're on a few-week break. We'll be back in October. So just stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week, guys. And we'll see you next time. Bye.